Hey guys, today we're standing at a crossroads, and not the kind where a blinking traffic light decides for you. I'm talking about that quiet, almost invisible fork in the road you face every morning when your feet first hit the floor. On one side, the autopilot path. You drift through the day, letting moods, headlines, and other people's energy tell you how to feel. On the other side, the intentional path. You choose joy, not because the circumstances are perfect, but because you've decided that happiness is no longer a guest. It's a permanent resident in your life. Right now, as you listen, picture yourself waking up tomorrow. The light is spilling through the blinds. The air smells faintly of coffee from somewhere down the hall. And before your brain fully boots up, you get to make that one powerful decision. Do I let the day decide for me, or do I decide for the day? That's the core of choosing joy. And here's the thing, most feel-good books gloss over. It's not a switch you flip once and keep forever. Joy is slippery. If you don't hold it, protect it, and feed it, the noise of life will take it from you without asking. Happiness isn't the default setting in our world. Survival is. Your brain evolved to scan for threats, not delights. That's why just be happy feels like bad advice. It ignores the fact that the deck is stacked against joy, unless you play the game differently. So the first loophole we're going to exploit is this. The original advice often assumes you already believe you can be happy. But maybe you don't. Maybe part of you thinks happiness is reserved for the people with better jobs, easier families, more money, fewer problems. That belief is the real cage. Let's rip it open. Here's the truth. Happiness is a skill. Skills can be learned, practiced, mastered. You weren't born knowing how to read, drive, or make pasta without burning the bottom of the pot. But you learned. Happiness works the same way. It's not about pretending pain doesn't exist. It's about not letting pain run the show. Now, choosing joy starts small. Think of it like a vote. Every time you react to something, traffic, a text, a sudden change of plans, you cast a vote for the kind of emotional climate you want to live in. One vote doesn't decide an election, but hundreds of them, day after day. That's how you change the government of your mind. Here's where the second loophole comes in. The original self-help language often paints joy as this big, sparkly event. Dancing in the rain, laughing with friends under string lights, holding hands at sunset. And yes, those moments are magic. But if you wait for them, you'll miss the dozens of plain, ordinary moments that could have given you real satisfaction today. The perfection filter kills your access to everyday joy. You scroll through pictures of other people's highlight reels and assume that's what joy looks like. It's not. Joy looks like finally fixing that squeaky hinge, like a perfectly toasted slice of bread, like a text from someone who gets you without you having to explain. And here's where we level up. You train your brain to notice. That's the muscle most people never build. Right now, take a deep breath and notice one thing around you that's pleasant. The softness of your chair, the way the light catches on the edge of your mug, even the warmth of your phone in your hand. That's not fluff. Neurologically, you're rewiring the pathways your brain uses to evaluate your life. Of course, it's not enough to just notice. You have to choose. Which brings me to another underused strategy: proactive emotional setting. You wouldn't drive a car without aiming the wheel. Why start your day without aiming your mind? Each morning, before the inbox attacks or the world's emergencies crash in, You set your default. Try this. Sit up, plant your feet, and say, out loud, "Today, I choose joy." Sounds corny? Good. Corny works. Saying it makes your brain take it seriously. Now, let's get real about resistance. Part of you will fight this. You'll think, this is fake. I'm lying to myself. And that's okay. Here's the loophole in that resistance. Your brain doesn't require your belief to start changing. It just requires repetition. You can feel skeptical and still vote for joy every day until one morning you wake up and realize the votes have added up. The next upgrade is learning to disarm joy thieves. You know who they are. The friend who dumps negativity on you like it's their love language. The coworker who sighs like it's a sport. The endless drip of bad news that convinces you the whole world is on fire. You can't always avoid them, but you can control your intake, limit the scroll, delay reading that email until you're ready, step outside after a tough conversation, and breathe fresh air like it's armor. Protecting joy isn't selfish, it's self-defense. And here's something else the original material doesn't hit hard enough. Joy isn't just an inner glow, it's a performance enhancer. People who choose joy on purpose are more creative, more resilient, and recover faster from setbacks. Why? Because joy lowers your stress hormones, which means your brain stops running in emergency mode and starts running in solution mode. That's why happy people seem lucky. They're not dodging problems. They're solving them from a better headspace. Let's ground this in a scenario. Picture two versions of you, both stuck in the same rainstorm without an umbrella. Version 1 curses, hunches their shoulders, and carries that wet misery into the rest of the day. Version 2 laughs, walks a little faster, and imagines telling the story later. Same weather, different vote. Multiply that by hundreds of small moments, and you get two completely different lives. If you want an advanced tactic, and this is the one that blows past generic advice, stack your joy choice with identity. Don't just say, "I want to be happy today." Say, "I'm the kind of person who finds something to smile about in any situation." The second statement rewrites who you are, not just how you feel. And humans are stubborn about living up to their identities. But what about the hard days? The days when choosing joy feels like a joke? That's where microjoy comes in. The smallest, most ridiculous things you can still appreciate when everything else is falling apart. A meme that makes you snort laugh. The sound of rain against the window while you're inside. The way your pet looks at you like you're the entire universe. These micro joys are the pebbles you step on when the big road has washed away. And yes, some people will call this naive. They'll say you're ignoring reality. But you're not ignoring it. You're editing it. You're choosing which parts to amplify. That's not denial. That's design. Architects don't build houses out of every material they find. They select the ones that will make it stand. You're building your inner life the same way. So tomorrow, when that fork in the road appears, autopilot or intention, remember this. Joy isn't the loud, spectacular victory. It's the quiet, repeated vote. It's a muscle you work, a garden you tend, a habit you guard. And when you choose it often enough, it starts choosing you back. You've heard it before. Be grateful. It's the darling of every motivational poster, the centerpiece of countless talks, the so-called magic pill of happiness. But here's the problem. Nobody talks about. The way most people practice gratitude is shallow. It's the sugar coating on a burnt cake. Looks good for a second. But underneath, nothing's changed. And that's the loophole we're going to rip open right now. You're not here for lukewarm lists of 3 things I'm thankful for, scribbled before bed, because some book told you to. You're here to make gratitude a force so sharp, so alive, that it cuts through cynicism and rewires how you see the world. First, let's be honest. The cliché version of gratitude fails for 3 reasons. 1. It's vague. Writing family or health every day is like pressing the same piano key and expecting a symphony. 2. It's detached. You list it, but you don't feel it. 3. It's sporadic. You treat gratitude like a seasonal holiday instead of a daily discipline. We're going to fix all 3. Imagine this. You're in your kitchen, making coffee, and you notice the smell before you even pour the cup. Instead of letting it drift past, you stop. You inhale like the air itself is worth something, and in that moment, you feel gratitude. Not for coffee in general, but for this exact coffee, in this exact mug, in this exact morning light. That specificity is what changes your brain chemistry. Generic gratitude is like a blurry photograph. You can't connect to it. Specific gratitude is high definition. It demands your attention and pulls you in. Science backs this up. When you focus on precise, sensory-rich details, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the feel-good chemicals. But here's the twist. The more you repeat that process, the faster your brain gets at finding the details. That's the lens shift we're after. You start scanning for beauty without even trying. The original gratitude advice stops here. Notice good things. But we're going further. You're not just going to notice. You're going to saturate yourself in the feeling until it leaves an imprint. That means slowing down long enough to let it land. We're in a world that gulps experiences like fast food. Gratitude forces you to chew. Here's a drill. 3 times a day. Set a timer for 30 seconds. In those 30 seconds, find one thing in your environment and describe it in your head, like you're explaining it to someone who's never seen it. The warmth of the cup in your hand, the way the leaves outside look almost metallic in the sunlight, the texture of the sweater against your skin. Describe it until your mind goes quiet. That's when gratitude clicks from thought to state. And don't be afraid to get defiant with it. This is where we exploit another loophole. Most people wait for life to be calm, to feel grateful. That's like waiting for silence to learn the drums. The real skill is finding gratitude in the mess. Your car breaks down. You're grateful it happened near a gas station and not in the middle of nowhere. You spill your lunch? You're grateful you didn't spill it on your laptop. Gratitude in chaos is the ultimate rebellion. It tells your brain, I'm in control of my focus, no matter what. Now let's talk about the kind of gratitude nobody sells you. Reverse gratitude. It's looking back at something you once cursed and realizing it shaped you. That heartbreak that forced you to grow. That job loss that shoved you into a career you actually love. Reverse gratitude requires humility. You admit you didn't see the whole picture back then. But it also builds resilience. You start trusting that today's pain might be tomorrow's gift. And here's the upgrade most opponents miss. Gratitude as fuel, not just comfort. Yes, gratitude soothes you, but it can also sharpen you. When you're grateful for the progress you've made, you're more likely to keep pushing. It's like an athlete watching old footage, not to rest on the win, but to remember the work it took to get there. Gratitude becomes the scoreboard that shows you're moving forward. Let's ground this with an example. Picture you've been working toward a goal. Maybe it's running your first 5K, learning a language, or building a business. On the hard days, Gratitude for how far you've already come keeps you from quitting. You're not just thankful for the finish line. You're thankful for the sweat, the fumbles, the tiny milestones along the way. There's also a social dimension we're going to weaponize here. Expressed gratitude. Thinking it is good. Saying it changes the game. When you tell someone, "I appreciate how you always remember the details," you create a bond that money can't buy. People remember how you made them feel. Expressed gratitude turns allies into lifelong supporters. And here's a power move. Preemptive gratitude. Thank people for what they're going to do before they've done it. Thanks for taking the time to read this email. I appreciate you looking into that for me. Preemptive gratitude plants a subtle psychological seed. Most people will work to live up to the thanks you've already given. One more loophole to exploit. Gratitude stacking. Stack gratitude on top of habits you already do, so it becomes impossible to skip. If you brush your teeth every morning, think of one thing you're grateful for during those 2 minutes. If you boil water for tea, think of one person you appreciate before it's ready. Linking gratitude to an existing routine removes the "I forgot" excuse. And let's talk about the secret advantage. Gratitude makes you harder to manipulate. When you're content with what you have, you're less vulnerable to marketing, peer pressure, or fear tactics. You're not immune to wanting more, but you're anchored. People who lack gratitude chase every shiny thing. People who practice it know the difference between a real upgrade and a distraction. So tomorrow, instead of jotting down family, health, home in some tired notebook, you're going to go deep. You're going to feel the gratitude in your chest, not just listed on paper. You're going to practice it when the day is smooth and when it's sharp, when you're holding a win and when you're holding a loss. Gratitude will stop being a nice idea and start being your operating system. A lens so clean and sharp that the world looks richer, closer, and more alive every time you look through it. And once that happens, every small moment becomes a chance to cast another vote for joy. Gratitude changes the way you see the world, but connection changes the way the world sees you. It's the next natural step. When you start noticing the richness around you, it's almost impossible not to want to share it. And yet, this is where most advice falls flat. You've heard the same lines. Spend more time with friends. Call your family. Be nice to people. It's well-meaning, but vague. It's like telling someone to eat healthier without explaining what to put on the plate. The truth is, connection isn't about the quantity of interactions. It's about the quality. And quality starts with presence. You've sat in conversations where both people's eyes keep flicking down to their phones. You've smiled at someone while already thinking about the next task. That's not connection. That's social autopilot. You can have 100 contacts and still feel invisible. What actually nourishes you is the kind of connection that leaves an afterglow. Those moments you replay in your head later because they felt real. It could be a 5-minute exchange that makes you feel like you've been seen down to the bone. That's what we're after. Depth, not just proximity. And here's the first shift. Instead of waiting for these moments to happen by accident, you make them happen by intention. That means slowing down enough to listen, like it's the most important thing you'll do today. Not listening to reply, not listening to solve, just listening until the other person feels understood. Most people rarely experience that. When they do, they remember you for it. It's not complicated, but it's not common either. The average interaction is built like a game of ping pong, a quick back and forth of surface updates and recycled phrases. Break the pattern. Ask a question that invites a real answer. Instead of, "How are you?" Try, "What's been the highlight of your week?" Instead of, "Busy lately?" Try, "What's been taking up most of your headspace?" Questions like that signal you're not skimming, you're diving in. Connection also deepens when you allow yourself to be seen, and that's where many people freeze. We've been trained to present the polished version, the tidy bio, the curated feed, the everything's fine mask. But the truth is, people don't bond with your perfection. They bond with the parts of you that are human. The crack in your voice when you talk about something that matters. The story you admit still stings a little. The way you light up when you talk about something you love. Vulnerability is the handshake before the handshake. Now, the common advice is to just open up. But that can backfire if you're spilling without trust. The smarter approach is layered sharing. Start with safe truths, see how they handle them, and gradually step closer to the heart. This builds mutual safety, which is the foundation of any connection that lasts. And let's talk about energy, not in a mystical sense, but in the way people feel after being around you. Some conversations drain, others charge. When you're deliberate about how you show up, you can be the kind of presence people seek out. That doesn't mean being endlessly cheerful. It means being emotionally consistent. A calm, grounded presence is magnetic because it's rare. Think back to the most connected moments of your life. Chances are, they happened when someone was fully there with you. No clock watching, no judgment, no rush. They weren't distracted by noise. And in that space, you could exhale. That's the gift you can give to others. And when you do, it circles back to you in ways that ripple for years. And connection isn't limited to your inner circle. There's power in micro-connections. The smile you give a stranger, the brief chat with the barista, the eye contact with someone walking their dog in the morning. These aren't throwaway interactions. They're the stitches that hold together the social fabric of your life. Each one reinforces the truth that you're not alone here. There's also an underused approach, creating shared moments instead of just shared spaces. You can sit in a room with someone for hours and not feel close. Or you can create one shared experience, cooking together, solving a problem side by side, even going for a walk, and build a bond that feels 10 times stronger. Experiences create stories, and stories are the currency of connection. But let's be honest, building connection also means pruning. You know the people who drain you, the ones who leave you feeling smaller or heavier every time you interact. You don't have to cut everyone out, but you can control how much access they have to you. Protecting your energy makes space for relationships that truly nourish you. And if you want to go beyond the ordinary, start practicing what I call invisible generosity. That's when you do something kind without announcing it, without posting it, without angling for recognition. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you in line. Leave a sincere compliment on someone's work without signing your name. Help someone in a way they may never trace back to you. This isn't about ego. It's about creating a quiet thread of goodwill that somehow, always, seems to find its way back. One final element that takes connection from good to unforgettable. Follow through. If someone tells you about an upcoming event, ask them about it later. If they mention they're nervous about a presentation, check in the day after. People remember the ones who remember them. Consistency builds trust, and trust turns connection into a lifeline. When gratitude becomes the way you see, connection becomes the way you move through that vision. offering it, receiving it, and weaving it into the fabric of every day. And once you learn to connect with this kind of depth, life stops feeling like something you're getting through and starts feeling like something you're part of. When you've built connection that's alive and real, something else begins to shift. You start noticing the small victories in your life, not as fleeting feel-good moments, but as proof that you're moving forward. This is where most people slip back into old habits. They think only the big milestones matter. The promotion, the finish line, the debt paid off. But if you only celebrate the peaks, you'll spend most of your life trudging through valleys. The mistake is easy to see. People treat progress like a rare visitor instead of a daily companion. They believe they can't feel proud until something huge happens. And here's the quiet cost: that thinking kills momentum. Without momentum, your drive fades. And without drive, even the big dreams stall. Celebrating small wins isn't just being positive. It's the psychology of staying in motion. Every time you mark a step forward, even a tiny one, your brain gets a hit of dopamine, a signal that says, keep going, this is working. Ignore those moments, and you deny yourself the fuel you need to keep climbing. Think about it. A runner doesn't wait until the last mile to drink water. They hydrate along the way. Celebrating little wins is that hydration for your motivation. But let's get clear. We're not talking about fake celebration. This isn't clapping for the sake of clapping. It's about genuinely recognizing that something you did today was worth noticing. That could be waking up 10 minutes earlier than usual, choosing to walk instead of drive, saying no to something that would have drained you, or handling a conversation better than you would have a year ago. Here's where you outpace the generic advice. Measure yourself against your own past, not against someone else's present. If you compare your small wins to someone else's big wins, they'll never feel like enough. But if you compare them to the version of you who didn't even try, they suddenly become monumental. You can also amplify this practice by making your wins visible. Keep a running done list instead of just a to-do list. At the end of the week, you'll see proof of movement, not just the weight of what's left to do. That proof keeps you from falling into the trap of thinking you're stuck when you're actually advancing. And here's a technique most people never use. Name the ripple. When you hit a small goal, ask yourself, what does this make possible next? Maybe finishing that one workout means you'll sleep better tonight, which means you'll wake up earlier, which means you'll have time to plan the day with more intention. The small win isn't small anymore. It's a chain reaction. This is also how you turn setbacks into part of the celebration. If you aimed for 10 sales calls and only made 7, you still made 7. That's 7 more than none. The point isn't lowering your standards. It's refusing to erase the progress you did make just because it wasn't perfect. And don't underestimate the social power of sharing these wins with the right people. Tell someone who roots for you, and you multiply the impact. The right person will light up with you, and that shared energy makes the win feel even bigger. It's like applause echoing off a larger room. If you really want this to stick, create a ritual. Maybe every Friday night you jot down 3 wins from the week while sipping your favorite drink. Or every morning, you start by reminding yourself of one thing you nailed yesterday. Rituals anchor the habit until it becomes automatic. When you live this way, something remarkable happens. Your definition of success shifts. You stop thinking of it as a single mountaintop and start seeing it as a series of steps, each worth noticing, each worth a moment of pride. That's how you keep your energy high while others burn out waiting for the big moment that never comes. And here's the truth. Your competitors, in business, in life, in mindset, will miss. The person who celebrates small wins consistently will outlast the person who only celebrates occasionally. Why? Because you're constantly feeding your own momentum. You're never running on an empty tank. So, from this point forward, you stop dismissing the little things. You stop saying, "It's not a big deal," when it is. You start treating every win, however small, as a vote for the life you want. Those votes add up. They always have. And when they do, you'll realize that the big moments you were waiting for weren't random after all. They were built, brick by brick, from the small victories you chose to honor. Momentum from small wins isn't just a mental game, it's physical. Your body and mind are partners, and the way you treat one always spills over into the other. If you've ever tried to push through a tired day with nothing but willpower, you know how fragile motivation can be when your energy is low. The reverse is also true. When you move your body and calm your mind, you create a base that everything else rests on. The trouble is, most people treat physical and mental care like optional extras, something they'll fit in if there's time left after work, family, and obligations. But let's be honest. When's the last time there was time left over? That's why the people who thrive don't wait for leftover time. They claim it first. The usual advice says, exercise more, meditate more, get better sleep. True, but vague. If you leave it there, it stays in the I should category forever. The shift happens when you stop thinking of movement and stillness as chores and start seeing them as your power supply. Let's start with movement. You don't need a gym membership, a perfect outfit, or a 90-minute workout to change your state. You need 10 minutes of intentional movement, done daily, without negotiation. Walk fast enough to feel your heartbeat pick up. Do bodyweight exercises until your muscles feel awake. Put on one song you love and dance like you're trying to shake the stress out of your skin. The goal isn't to get fit in the future. It's to charge your battery right now. When you move, you change your chemistry. Endorphins flood your system. Blood flow increases to your brain. Stress hormones drop. You feel clearer, sharper, more ready. And here's the hidden advantage. Physical movement is often the trigger that makes mental clarity possible. Now, the other half of the equation, stillness. In a culture that rewards speed, stillness can feel unnatural, even indulgent. But it's not a luxury, it's your reset button. The cliché is, just meditate. But let's strip away the mystique. Stillness is any moment where you pause your input long enough to hear your own thoughts. That might mean sitting quietly with your eyes closed for 5 minutes, counting your breaths. It might mean walking without headphones and letting your mind wander. It could even be the moment before a meeting where you take 3 slow inhales and exhales instead of checking your phone. Stillness isn't about emptying your mind. It's about letting it settle enough for you to see what's really there. This is where the link between body and mind gets powerful. Pair your movement with stillness. Move first to burn off the static energy, then drop into stillness to absorb the clarity. 10 minutes of motion, 2 minutes of pause. Repeat daily and watch your focus, mood, and resilience transform. Most people overcomplicate both steps. They think if they can't commit to an hour at the gym or a 20-minute meditation, it's not worth doing. But the truth is, small, consistent practices outperform occasional marathons. The person who takes 10 mindful breaths every morning will feel more grounded over time than the person who meditates once a month for an hour. And there's another upgrade. Turn both movement and stillness into anchors for your day. If you start your morning with them, you've already won before the rest of the world's demands hit you. If you end your day with them, you flush out the residue of stress and sleep more deeply. You can even use movement and stillness to rescue a bad day. Feeling unfocused? Get up, walk outside, stretch your arms toward the sky. Feeling overwhelmed? Sit down, close your eyes, breathe until your shoulders drop. These aren't escapes, they're resets. But here's the part most advice ignores. You don't have to like it every time. Some days you'll feel resistance. Do it anyway. Movement and stillness are like brushing your teeth. Not glamorous, but essential. You don't skip them because you're not in the mood. You do them because they keep everything else from decaying. And when you make this non-negotiable, something interesting happens. Your wins from Section 4 multiply. You notice you're calmer in conversations, sharper in decisions, more patient when plans change. You feel more in control, not because life got easier, but because your baseline strength got higher. The people who neglect this, they burn through their mental energy trying to brute force their way through exhaustion and noise. That's why they can't sustain momentum. But you'll be building a foundation they can't see until it's too late to catch up. So tomorrow, before you check your phone, before you scroll, before you let the day decide your mood, move your body, then calm your mind. It doesn't matter if it's in your living room, in your driveway, in your bedroom before the kids wake up. You're not doing it for a six-pack. You're doing it so that every other part of your life runs on a full charge. When you do this, you stop being reactive. You stop running on fumes. And in a world that's tired, distracted, and overstimulated, you'll stand out as the rare person who carries both energy and calm in the same breath. That combination is magnetic. It makes people wonder what you're doing differently, and you'll know. It started with the choice to move, then the choice to be still. When your body is energized and your mind is steady, you gain something most people never realize they're missing: the ability to hear your own voice without distortion. That voice is your self-talk, the constant commentary in your head. And here's the thing: it's either your most loyal coach or your most ruthless critic. The typical advice here is soft. Think positive. Be kinder to yourself. Practice affirmations. Nice sentiment. But in real life, that barely scratches the surface. Because self-talk isn't just about saying nice things. It's about reshaping the entire tone of the conversation you have with yourself every single day. If you've ever tried to push through a hard season, you know how loud the inner critic can get. It says you're not doing enough, not moving fast enough, not measuring up. And if you let that voice run unchecked, it becomes your default. That's why positive thinking alone doesn't work. You can't slap a smiley sticker over a broken foundation and expect it to hold. Here's the sharper approach. Treat your self-talk like a training ground, not a pep rally. A pep rally makes you feel good in the moment, but fades when reality hits. A training ground rewires your habits, so your default responses are stronger. Start by catching the critic in real time. You don't have to fight it immediately. Just notice it. There's that voice again, telling me I'm behind. This pause breaks the automatic loop. From there, you can choose a different tone. And this isn't about fake optimism. It's about accurate, constructive self-talk. Let's say you miss a workout. The critic says, "You're lazy. You'll never stick to anything." The trained voice says, "You missed today, but you've been consistent this week. Get back on track tomorrow." One tears you down, the other keeps you moving. Another upgrade most people miss: your self-talk should match your role. You're not just the player in your life, you're also the coach. Coaches don't sugarcoat mistakes, but they don't humiliate their players either. They point out what went wrong, then give a clear, doable plan to fix it. When you adopt that tone with yourself, you stop spiraling and start correcting. And here's where we go beyond cliché. Use specific language. Vague praise like "good job" barely registers. Concrete praise: "I handled that meeting calmly, even when I was frustrated," sticks, because your brain can replay it later as proof. Specific feedback works the same way for mistakes. Instead of "I'm terrible at this," say, "I rushed that part and lost focus. Next time I'll slow down here." That's how you turn criticism into instruction. There's also power in borrowing someone else's voice. Think of the most supportive person you've ever known: a friend, mentor, or even a fictional character, and imagine them speaking into your situation. It sounds simple, but it's often easier to believe encouragement when you hear it in a voice you already trust. Over time, that tone blends into your own. Now, to stay ahead of competitors in life and mindset, you need to do what they won't. Practice self-talk out loud. Saying it in your head is good, but saying it with your actual voice strengthens it like a muscle. Words spoken carry weight. They cut through the fog of thought and force your brain to process them differently. That's why athletes shout to pump themselves up before a game, and why military drills use loud, repeated commands. The other overlooked move: link your self-talk to action immediately. If you tell yourself, "I can handle this," then do something to prove it within minutes. Action cements belief. Belief without action fades into empty slogans. And remember, self-talk isn't just for hard moments. The most effective people use it during neutral moments to keep their baseline high. You don't have to wait for a crisis to speak to yourself with clarity and strength. Make it a habit to check in throughout the day. How am I speaking to myself right now? Is it helping or hurting? Over time, this practice rewires your mental reflexes. Instead of defaulting to self-doubt, you default to self-direction. And when challenges hit, you don't crumble. You coach yourself through them in real time. The people who never learn this stay stuck in cycles. They fuel themselves with bursts of outside motivation, then crash when it runs out. You'll be different. You'll carry your own fuel, and that's what will keep you moving when others stall. So as you move forward, treat every word you say to yourself like a seed. The ones you plant most often will grow strongest. And in a world where most people plant weeds without realizing it, you'll be building a garden that keeps producing season after season. When you've trained your inner voice to be constructive instead of corrosive, the next leap is making it compassionate. And this is where most people misunderstand the word entirely. They think self-compassion means cutting yourself endless slack, lowering the bar, or letting yourself off the hook. That's the caricature version. Real self-compassion is something far sharper and far stronger. Think of it like this. Self-compassion isn't the absence of accountability. It's the presence of understanding. It's treating yourself as someone worth supporting through mistakes, not someone worth punishing into improvement. The irony: that support almost always leads to better results than punishment ever could. Here's why. When you beat yourself up, your brain shifts into defensive mode. You stop looking at what went wrong because you're too busy bracing for the next hit. But when you give yourself space to learn without fear of self-attack, you process the lesson faster and you're willing to try again sooner. Let's call out the cliché here. The advice to love yourself no matter what. Sounds nice, but without structure, it turns into permission to stay stuck. True self-compassion has a backbone. It's the difference between a coach who believes in you and refuses to let you quit, and a coach who says, "Oh well, you tried," when you still have gas in the tank. One of the fastest upgrades you can make is this. Talk to yourself as if you're responsible for protecting your own potential. That means you acknowledge the misstep, you own it, and you decide what's next, all without character assassination. Example: you skip a habit you've been trying to build. The default critic says, "I'm so undisciplined." The fluffy version of compassion says, "It's fine, it doesn't matter." But the balanced version, the one that keeps you growing, says, "I missed it today. That's not the outcome I wanted. I'll make it a non-negotiable tomorrow. And here's how." Self-compassion also means catching yourself when you start defining your whole identity by your worst moments. You are not one argument, one failure, one bad week. You're the sum of every choice you've made, and the next choice is always up for grabs. The people who master this don't just bounce back faster. They carry an aura of steadiness that others feel. When you're around someone who isn't afraid of making mistakes because they trust themselves to recover, you sense it. They're calmer, less defensive, and more willing to take intelligent risks. That's the quiet, competitive edge self-compassion gives you. Here's an advanced move. Practice visible self-compassion. If you spill coffee on yourself in public, instead of muttering curses under your breath or pretending it didn't happen, laugh it off. Shake your head and keep moving. People notice that. And what they see is someone who isn't held hostage by embarrassment, which makes you seem unshakable. Another. Turn should-haves into next times. "I should have spoken up in that meeting" becomes "next time. I'll prepare 2 points to share." This simple linguistic shift keeps your focus forward. Regret has its place, but wallowing is wasted time. And don't miss this. Self-compassion is contagious. When you model it, people around you feel permission to treat themselves better too. In a team, that creates resilience. In relationships, it builds trust. In parenting, it shapes the inner voices your kids will carry for life. To hardwire it, build micro moments into your day where you deliberately choose the compassionate path. Catch yourself mid-self-criticism and reframe. When something goes right, acknowledge your role in making it happen instead of dismissing it as luck. And when you feel the urge to compare yourself to someone else's highlight reel, remind yourself you're looking at a single frame, not the whole film. The truth is, most competitors, whether in business, creative work, or personal growth, burn themselves out by mistaking cruelty for discipline. They think tearing themselves down will keep them sharp. What it actually does is make them brittle. You'll do the opposite. Build flexibility, endurance, and confidence that can't be rattled. When you can be both honest and kind with yourself, you stop being at war with your own mind. That frees up all the energy you used to spend on self-inflicted wounds. Energy you can now aim at building, creating, connecting, living. And that's when your growth stops feeling like a fight and starts feeling like momentum. When you've built the skill of self-compassion, you've created a stable foundation. but there's still a major source of stress that can derail even the most balanced person: trying to control what you can't. It's one of the fastest ways to burn out, and yet it's where most people waste their energy every single day. The common advice here is soft again. Just let it go. Don't worry about it. Focus on what you can control. But you and I both know it's not that easy. If it were, nobody would stay up at night replaying old conversations or obsessively checking news they can't influence. Here's the truth. Letting go isn't a one-time event. It's a trained skill. And it's not about apathy or detachment. It's about refusing to tie your energy to outcomes you can't directly shape. First, you have to recognize the trap. Control feels safe. When you think you're steering every detail, it soothes your fear of uncertainty. But when you try to control the uncontrollable, someone else's feelings, the pace of the economy, whether people like you lock yourself into a losing game. The rules are rigged against you, because no matter how hard you try, those levers aren't yours to pull. The upgrade is to reframe control. Picture a circle. Inside that circle are the things you can influence: your actions, your responses, your habits, your choices. Outside the circle are the things you can't: other people's choices, the past, random events. The goal is to pour all your effort into the inside of the circle and to treat the outside like weather. You can prepare for it, but you can't change it. Practical example: a business pitch. Inside your circle, the quality of your research, your delivery, your preparation. Outside your circle, whether the client is in a good mood, their budget, their pre-existing biases. Focus on the inside, and you walk away with your head high, no matter the decision. Focus on the outside, and you ride an emotional roller coaster you can't control. Now, letting go doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop bleeding energy into dead ends. You replace, "How do I make them do what I want?" with, "How do I show up in a way I'm proud of, regardless of what they do?" That shift is where freedom lives. One way to strengthen this muscle is through what I call decision checkpoints. When you're stressing over something, pause and ask, is this inside my circle or outside it? If it's inside, take action. If it's outside, redirect. That redirection might mean moving your body, changing your environment, or diving into a task that is fully yours to control. Another overlooked move: set worry appointments. If your mind keeps dragging you to uncontrollable territory, give yourself 10 minutes at a set time each day to worry all you want. You'll be shocked how often, by the time the appointment comes, the urgency has already faded. Letting go also means you stop rewriting the past in your head. That conversation you wish you'd handled differently, it's over. The only useful move is deciding how you'll handle the next one. Every time you drag the past into the present, you trade current energy for something you can't edit anymore. Here's the competitive edge. While most people spend their days wrestling shadows, trying to force life into their preferred shape, you'll be moving forward, unburdened. That makes you faster, more adaptable, and harder to knock off course. And it's not just about speed. Letting go clears mental space for creativity and opportunity. When you're not tangled in resistance to reality, you see options others miss. You respond instead of react. You choose instead of chase. In relationships, this makes you magnetic. People feel safe around someone who isn't trying to manage their every move. It creates trust, and trust is the backbone of connection. In work, it makes you effective. You spend less time firefighting things you can't control and more time building things you can. The truth is, control is an illusion, but influence is real. And influence comes from mastering your circle, not from reaching beyond it. The sooner you stop gripping the ungrippable, the more power you have over what's actually in your hands. So the next time you feel that urge to tighten your grip, pause. Look at your circle. Step back from the storm you can't stop, and pour yourself into the ground you can till. That's where the seeds of real change are planted. And when they grow, you'll find you didn't need control after all. You needed focus. Once you've learned to let go of what you can't control, you create space for something far more powerful. Resilience. Not the soft, inspirational poster kind. Real resilience. The kind that makes you not just survive difficulty, but return sharper, stronger, and more capable than before. Most people think resilience is about endurance, about hanging in there until the storm passes. But endurance alone is just white-knuckling your way through pain. True resilience is adaptive. It's the ability to absorb impact, adjust, and come back with something gained from the experience, not just scars. The common narrative says, what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. That's only true if you process it right. Plenty of people come out of challenges more fearful, more bitter, and more closed off. Resilience isn't automatic, it's intentional. The first shift is seeing setbacks as data, not destiny. A failed project doesn't define you, it informs you. You mine it for patterns, weaknesses, and blind spots. Then you use that knowledge to upgrade your approach. Without that mindset, a setback is just pain. With it, a setback becomes a lab. Think about athletes. The best ones don't avoid failure. They train with it. They miss shots, replay the footage, and adjust mechanics. They don't just hope the next game goes better. They design it to go better. You can apply the same discipline to your own life, whether it's recovering from a financial loss, a relationship ending, or a personal mistake. Here's the competitive upgrade most people ignore. Resilience isn't just about bouncing back from big hits. It's about practicing recovery in small daily ways. When you get thrown off your morning routine, how fast do you get back on track? When someone's words irritate you, how quickly do you reset your mood instead of carrying it all day? These micro recoveries train your nervous system to respond, not just react. One tool that makes this easier is a recovery script, a pre-decided plan for how you'll handle predictable setbacks. Example: you miss a workout. Instead of spiraling into guilt, your script says, take a brisk 10-minute walk, drink water, plan the next session. This bypasses the mental negotiation and keeps you in motion. Resilience also grows when you diversify your identity. If all your self-worth is tied to one role, your job title, your relationship, your status, any hit to that role feels catastrophic. But if you see yourself as a whole person with multiple pillars, health, relationships, hobbies, learning, contribution, a hit to one doesn't take you out completely. Another key: control your recovery environment. You can't always choose what happens to you, but you can choose what you surround yourself with after. That means people who remind you of your strengths, environments that inspire rather than drain you, and inputs, books, podcasts, conversations that feed solutions instead of fear. And let's be clear, resilience doesn't mean you don't feel the hit. You will. You should. Denying the pain only delays processing it. The difference is, you give it a container. You let yourself feel it fully for a set time. Then you shift into reconstruction mode. This is where you gain the edge competitors won't see coming, while they're still stuck asking, "Why me?" You've already moved on to, "What's next?" That speed compounds over a year, 2 years, 10 years. You're not just recovering. You're stacking gains they never caught up to. The most magnetic, resilient people have a quiet confidence about them. They're not loud about what they've been through. They carry it in how they move, the way they handle pressure, the steadiness in their voice. You can feel they've been tested, and they're better for it. If you want this for yourself, start practicing now, not when disaster hits. Build recovery rituals into your week. Learn to reframe small frustrations as training drills. Keep your identity wide, your environment intentional, and your scripts ready. Because life will test you. Everyone gets knocked down, but not everyone knows how to use the fall to build new muscle. That's what you're doing here, turning every hit into hidden training. So when the next one comes, you're not just prepared, you're waiting for it. Resilience gives you the ability to keep moving after a hit. But movement alone isn't enough. You need a direction worth moving toward. That's where purpose comes in. Purpose is the compass that keeps you from drifting. The pull that makes you willing to endure discomfort because the destination matters. Without it, resilience can turn into wandering. You're strong, but you're running in circles. The cliché advice says, "Find your purpose." Sounds noble. Also sounds like you should stumble on it during a meditation retreat or in a lightning bolt epiphany. But purpose is rarely a single, mystical discovery. It's built, not found, through curiosity, experiments, and a willingness to align your life with what matters most to you. Here's the sharper truth. Purpose is less about what you were born to do, and more about what you're willing to keep doing when it's hard. That filter strips away the fluff. Anyone can feel inspired when the path is easy. Your true purpose will hold your attention when the path is uphill, rocky, and unclear. You start uncovering it by asking better questions, not just, "What do I love?" Love changes. Ask, "What do I want my daily struggles to be about?" If you have to face challenges no matter what, they might as well be in service of something you care about. Another question, whose life do I want to impact, and how? Purpose gets bigger and more sustainable when it's tied to other people. Even the most driven goals lose steam if they're only about you. But when your work, your art, or your effort helps someone else, you get a renewable source of motivation. To live with purpose, you need alignment. That means your actions, habits, and environment all point toward the same thing. It's easy to say you value health, but if your calendar and kitchen don't reflect it, the purpose won't stick. The same goes for relationships, creativity, contribution, whatever your core aim is. It has to show up in the way you spend your time and energy. This is where most people fail. They treat purpose like a mood, something to feel when they're inspired. You'll treat it like infrastructure. That means building routines, boundaries, and priorities that protect it. If your purpose is to write, you block the hours. If it's to mentor others, you structure your schedule so those conversations are non-negotiable. And don't miss this. Purpose isn't static. It will evolve as you grow. The key is to keep checking in, asking if the thing you're working toward still feels worth the struggle. If it doesn't, it's time to adjust, not abandon the idea of purpose entirely. Here's the competitive edge. When your resilience meets your purpose, you stop needing outside permission to keep going. While others burn out chasing trends or external validation, you'll have an internal engine pulling you forward. Even your setbacks will feel different. They'll sting, but they'll also sharpen your focus, because you'll know exactly why you're getting back up. Living with purpose also changes the way you make decisions. Choices stop being about what's easiest or safest in the moment. They're measured against the bigger picture you're committed to. That means you'll say no more often, to distractions, to shallow opportunities, to anything that pulls you off course. And here's the real magic. When you live with purpose, people can feel it. They might not be able to name it, but they sense the clarity in your movements, the steadiness in your voice, the way you show up consistently. It draws allies, inspires trust, and attracts opportunities that align with your path. So don't wait for purpose to find you. Build it, brick by brick. Test what feels worth your effort. Notice where you're willing to show up again and again, and protect it with everything you've got. Because in a world full of people moving fast with no map, the one moving steadily with a compass always gets further. When your life runs on purpose, you already stand apart. But there's a way to take it further, a way to make your purpose magnetic, self-reinforcing, and nearly impossible to burn out on. That way is to root it in kindness and contribution. And let's be clear, we're not talking about the watered-down, obligatory version of kindness, the smile more or be nice, so people like you advice that fills self-help posters. Real kindness isn't about image, it's about impact. It's the deliberate choice to create value for someone else without keeping score. Knowing that in the long run, this energy always circles back in ways you can't predict. Here's the upgrade most people miss. Contribution isn't just charity. It's not limited to donating money or volunteering once a year. Contribution is the ongoing act of making the people and environments you touch better than you found them. It can be as grand as funding a community project, or as small as making a colleague feel truly heard in a meeting. Both count, because both shift the energy in the space you occupy. The competitive advantage here is enormous. Most people operate transactionally. I'll help you if it benefits me. That makes their impact shallow and forgettable. But when you contribute without immediate expectation, you tap into a level of trust and goodwill that competitors can't manufacture. People remember how you made them feel long after they've forgotten your resume or sales pitch. This isn't just feel-good theory. Neuroscience shows that genuine acts of kindness release dopamine and oxytocin, chemicals that boost mood, lower stress, and strengthen connection. That's why contributing energizes you instead of draining you. It feeds both the receiver and the giver. When you make contribution a daily habit, you're essentially wiring your brain for resilience and optimism at the same time. And here's the twist. Contribution works best when it's specific and personal. Generic gestures fade quickly, but targeted kindness lands with lasting weight. Think about the difference between saying, "You're doing great," and saying, "I noticed how you stayed calm under pressure in that meeting. It kept everyone else grounded." One is polite noise. The other is a mirror showing someone their best self. You can also amplify your purpose through quiet contribution. Not every act needs to be public or celebrated. Sometimes the most powerful moments are the ones no one sees. The email you send to encourage someone privately. The anonymous donation. The advice you give without attaching your name. Quiet contribution builds a kind of inner confidence that doesn't depend on applause. To make this a true edge, Weave contribution into your purpose's infrastructure. If your purpose is to teach, build moments of personal mentorship into your schedule. If it's to create, share your process with others so they can learn from your mistakes and wins. If it's to build a business, embed giving into the DNA of how you operate, not just as a PR move, but as a genuine part of the mission. The deeper you root your purpose in contribution, the more sustainable it becomes. Why? Because when the work stops being only about you, you remove the ego trap that kills momentum. On days when you feel tired or uninspired, remembering the people you're impacting gives you a reason to keep showing up. And here's the undeniable truth. Kindness is an attention magnet. In a noisy world full of self-promotion and sharp elbows, genuine generosity is rare enough to be noticed. People are drawn to it because it feels safe, human, and real. That attraction isn't manipulative. It's the natural result of creating value before asking for anything in return. When you live this way, your audience, whether that's your customers, your team, your community, or your circle of friends, doesn't just watch you. They root for you. They talk about you when you're not in the room, and they bring opportunities to your door. By the time your competitors try to figure out why you're winning, it's too late. They can copy your product, your strategies, even your branding, but they can't fake the trust, loyalty, and goodwill you've built through consistent, authentic contribution. That's why, if you've stayed with me this far, I want you to lock this in. Kindness isn't just a virtue, it's a strategy. Contribution isn't just charity, it's leverage, the kind that compounds invisibly until one day you're standing on a foundation no one else can see, but everyone can feel. By now, you've built resilience, anchored it in purpose, and amplified that purpose through contribution. But here's where most people start losing their edge. They spread themselves too thin. They pile on more commitments, chase more opportunities, collect more goals. On the surface, it looks like growth. Underneath, it's dilution. Simplicity is what protects you from that collapse. And simplicity isn't about living a bare, monk-like existence, unless that's what fuels you. It's about ruthless focus on what truly matters, and the discipline to cut everything else. The cliché says, less is more. But in the real world, less is only more if the less you keep is the right less. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or ambition. They fail because they scatter their energy across too many things that don't matter enough. Here's the upgrade. Treat your time and attention like premium real estate. If a task, habit, or relationship isn't actively contributing to your purpose, resilience, or well-being, it's taking up space that something better could fill. And when you remove that clutter, everything important becomes sharper, faster, and more effective. Start with a brutal inventory. Write down every commitment you've made, big or small. Then mark which ones directly serve your purpose. The rest, they're candidates for elimination, delegation, or radical reduction. This is the hardest part because it will force you to let go of good things to make room for the great. In practice, simplicity looks like fewer priorities, but deeper work on each. It's saying no to projects that don't move the needle, even if they're fun or flattering. It's refusing to chase every trend and instead doubling down on what you do best, knowing that mastery beats novelty in the long run. Simplicity also means designing your environment to support your focus. Clear your physical space so you're not surrounded by visual noise. Streamline your digital life, Fewer apps, fewer notifications, fewer tabs fighting for your attention. Every time you remove friction, you make it easier to put energy where it matters. Here's the competitive edge. Complexity is the default in a distracted world. People wear busyness like a badge, but busyness is a poor substitute for progress. When you strip away the excess, you move with clarity and speed that competitors buried in clutter can't match. This isn't just about productivity. It's about presence. Simplicity gives you the space to be fully engaged with what you're doing, whether that's building a project, having a conversation, or resting. And presence is magnetic. People notice when you're truly there with them, instead of half-scrolling your phone or mentally rushing to the next task. To hardwire simplicity, set rules that protect it. Limit the number of big goals you pursue at one time. Batch similar tasks instead of letting them scatter your day. Keep your tools and systems consistent so you spend less time managing them and more time using them. The truth is, every yes is also a no to something else. When you say yes to too much, you're saying no to depth, to mastery, to the kind of work and relationships that leave a mark. But when you choose fewer yeses, the right yeses, you amplify everything you touch. Living simply in this way isn't passive or boring. It's powerful. It means every action you take is loaded with intention. Every move counts. And that's how you outpace competitors who burn half their energy just deciding what to do next. So, strip it down. Focus on the essentials. Let go of the rest without apology. Because the fewer distractions you allow in, the more unstoppable the force you're building becomes. You've built resilience to recover faster. You've anchored it in purpose so every comeback has direction. You've amplified that purpose through contribution and sharpened it with simplicity. The final layer, the one that makes this unshakable, is patience combined with a long-term vision. And let's be honest, patience isn't glamorous. In a world obsessed with instant results, patience feels like watching paint dry. But the truth, patience is a competitive superpower. It's what allows you to keep showing up long after everyone else has quit or switched to the next shiny thing. Most people misunderstand patience as passive waiting, but real patience is active persistence. It's moving forward at a pace you can sustain, knowing that the biggest payoffs don't come from sprints. They come from marathons run with intent. Here's the upgrade. Patience isn't about tolerating delays. It's about trusting your process while you work the plan. Without vision, patience just feels like stagnation. But when you pair it with a clear, compelling long-term goal, every day's effort feels like laying bricks toward something solid. Think of farmers. They don't plant seeds and then dig them up the next day to check if they've grown. They follow the rhythms: plant, water, protect, knowing growth is happening beneath the surface even when they can't see it. Your long-term vision works the same way. The problem is, most people quit right before compounding kicks in. Skills, relationships, reputations, and results all have a tipping point. A moment when consistent effort suddenly accelerates into visible success. If you expect instant proof, you'll bail before that moment arrives. Your edge will be this: you'll hold the vision through the slow, boring, unsexy middle. While others chase novelty, you'll refine mastery. While they get distracted by short-term wins, you'll invest in depth that can't be taken away. Patience also protects your mental game. Impatience makes you reactive. Every obstacle feels like a crisis. Patience makes you strategic. Obstacles are just data points to adjust for, not signals to give up. Pair that with long-term vision, and you gain clarity about what truly matters. Minor setbacks stop feeling like failures. They're just steps in the plan. Small wins stop feeling insignificant. They're proof the plan is working. To make this real, define your long-term vision in detail. Not just what you want to achieve, but who you want to be when you get there. Then reverse engineer it into daily actions that fit your resilience, purpose, contribution, and simplicity. This makes every day feel connected to something bigger, even when progress is invisible. Here's the kicker. Patience doesn't mean you move slow. It means you move smart. You're not rushing to prove something to others. You're building something that will outlast them. And when you combine this with everything we've built so far, you become the rare person who can weather storms, ignore distractions, and outlast trends. Not because you're lucky, but because your foundation is unshakable. So here we are, at the quiet close of a journey that's been anything but small. You've walked through resilience, purpose, contribution, simplicity, and patience, not as abstract concepts, but as skills you can live. This is the part where you let it all settle. Take a deep breath and notice how the pieces fit together. Resilience keeps you in the game. Purpose tells you why the game matters. Contribution makes it bigger than yourself. Simplicity strips away the noise. Patience gives it the time to grow into something remarkable. None of this happens overnight, and that's the beauty of it. You're not chasing a quick fix that fades by next week. You're building a way of living that compounds, a way that turns each day, even the hard ones, into part of a story you'll be proud to tell. You'll still face setbacks. You'll still have moments where progress feels invisible. But now you have the tools to keep moving, to adjust without losing direction, and to stay rooted in what matters most. And somewhere in the middle of living this way, you'll realize happiness stopped being something you chased. It became the natural byproduct of a life aligned with your values, fueled by your strengths, and connected to the world in a way that feels real. That's the life you've been building here, one day at a time, one choice at a time. And it's yours now.